Hello, my name is Chiara Spina, and today I'll be speaking a little bit about the contributions of Mrs. Mary McLeod Bethune, who was a philanthropist, educator, womanist, civil rights activist, amongst many. Mrs. Bethune was born in South Carolina in 1875, and she was the first in her family to be born free from slavery. One of her greatest dreams was to become a missionary in Africa, since she took great pride in her heritage. However, when she was denied that opportunity, Mrs. Bethune decided to become an educator instead. During this time, Daytona was a segregated city, where its black citizens had unequal opportunities, especially when it came to education. So, with only $1.50 and 5 students, Mrs. Bethune founded the Daytona Literary and Industrial Training School for Negro girls. The school provided both academic and practical skills to black girls, since Mrs. Bethune wanted her students to be able to advance themselves while striving for better opportunities. In 1923, the school merged with the Cookman Institute to eventually become the Bethune-Cookman University, which still exists today. Mrs. Bethune was always involved in some form of activism. She believed that one of the best ways to help the black community was through education, and also that the advancement of black women could be achieved through financial independence. It was because of those two things that she founded her school. She also used her institution as a space to protest segregation and was involved in anti-lynching campaigns. Moreover, after women gained the right to vote in 1920, she led voter registration drives, despite that making her a possible target of racial violence. Another one of Mrs. Bethune's greatest accomplishments was the creation of the Bethune-Volusia Beach. During this time, Daytona Beach, much like most of Florida's beaches, was segregated. However, Mrs. Bethune wanted black folks to be able to enjoy the beaches without fear of harassment. So, she organized a group of investors, and together they bought a 2.5-mile strip of land by the sea. Thus, the Bethune-Volusia Beach was officially established in 1945, and it became one of the only beaches in Florida that black folks could safely access during the time. Mrs. Bethune was part of multiple clubs and organizations throughout her lifetime. She was the president of the NACW, under which she successfully raised funds to buy their first national headquarters. She founded the National Council of Negro Women, and in 1943, she became the vice president of the NAACP, a position that she held until the rest of her life. Her friendship with Eleanor Roosevelt contributed to her being appointed as the Director of Negro Affairs in the National Youth Administration, and also become a member of Franklin Delano Roosevelt's Black Cabinet, under which she was able to offer him counsel surrounding issues plaguing African American communities. These positions made her the highest-ranking black woman in the government, and also allowed her to have her voice heard by millions throughout the radio. In the next slide, we will hear a speech that she gave on NBC Radio, answering the question what democracy means for her. She used that opportunity to remind Americans about the racial inequality that was still consuming the country.
The democratic doors of equal opportunity have not been opened wide to Negroes. In the Deep South, Negro youth is offered only 1/15 of the educational opportunity of the average American child. The great masses of Negro workers are depressed and unprotected in the lowest levels of agriculture and domestic service.
One of the most unique things that Miss Bethune did was, funnily enough, preserving her own legacy. She created archives of all of her documents and papers. She opened her own house to the public in 1953, founding the Miss Bethune Museum. She worked on a biography for herself. All in all, she actively preserved her legacy in order to inspire future activists. I believe this to be a lesson in how simply preserving a legacy is an act of resistance for Black women who are constantly erased from history. Activists like Mrs. Bethune laid the foundation for modern movements like the Black Lives Matter and Say Her Name. In many aspects, Mrs. Bethune was an incredibly inspiring woman who was definitely ahead of her time. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for listening. These are all the works that I have referenced in this project. I hope you have a wonderful day.